Hey guys, today on the podcast, I'm talking with my friend Joey Yang. Joey is talking about his decision to save his sister's life. This is such a neat story, guys. Joey decided to donate his kidney to save his sister's life. So, Joey and I are really just talking about the kind of things that go through your mind, how you make the decision, the moments leading up to the actual operation. Um, anyway, I hope you'll enjoy the show. To me, Joey represents true love and a hero. Super neat story, super great guy. Thanks so much for listening and enjoy the show. Hey, what? Wait. Before you go, I have a word from our sponsor, OSIonline.com. So, are you looking or wanting? I think everybody wants to just feel good in their own bodies, right? It feels good to feel good. And one of the ways you can feel good in your own body, to feel amazing in your own body, is to have a daily movement plan. And that is why the Daily 21s program could be the movement plan for you. Because if you don't have a daily movement plan, well, then the Daily 21s program would satisfy that lack. But the Daily 21s program is literally designed to give you a feel good movement program that not only helps you feel good in the moment, but it just helps you feel better throughout your day and your days and your weeks and your months. Um, a solid movement program will keep everything running properly. It'll help keep your joints mobile, it'll help keep your muscles strong and supple, and it'll just help keep your emotions and your mind clear and more crisp. So, if you want to be the best person that you can be, you really need to move often. And that is why, if you don't move often, you may want to consider the Daily 21s program. All right, guys, that is available on osionline.com. Notes in the show. It's on the notes in the show. All right, guys, that's it from the word from our sponsor. And now, back to the show. Pull up a chair and buckle up. It's the Original Strength Podcast.
Hello, Tim.
Hey, Joey, how are you?
First day back at work in over 2 months.
So, first day back at work, man. How are you feeling?
Honestly, I think I'm okay. And then that random fatigue just hits in like that, when you're not expecting it, and you just have to just kind of sit down, lie down, or something. Usually, and because of the jet lag, I've been back here in Korea for a week, but top that with the jet lag, and it just kind of randomly hits you really bad, honestly.
So your body's still healing pretty good then.
Yeah, that's what I'm assuming too. So the doctors warned me this was gonna happen.
So your first day back at work, what are you doing now?
I work for the United States Army as a civilian employee, and I'm pretty sure my boss would probably shoot me if I told you what I did specifically. So let's just leave it at that for the time being.
That's great. To me, you're just super cool. So I just wanted to see what you could share, but that's good enough.
Just for the gentle listeners out there, I am I was a linguist for the United States Army here in Korea for about 10 years. Was a dedicated interpreter to general officers here for in support of US Forces Korea. And I back in 2021, I changed career fields into a new job series and having fun doing it at this
Awesome.
very moment in time.
Awesome. So Joey, thank you so much for being on the show.
Um,
One of the reasons I wanted you on the show is because you're a real hero. Like, and I hope you get into to tell your story. But from my standpoint, like I was watching you train on Instagram. I'm watching you do deadlifts every day. I'm watching you do all these things that are, you're a lot of strength. And then next thing I know, I see you on Instagram, you're traveling to Germany for a medical procedure. And I'm like, and I don't know what's going on. I'm like, well, good gosh, you look healthy as a horse. So every day I see you working out. And I had no idea why you were going to Germany. But
uh,
why did you go to Germany?
well, what you saw was something I called the Deadlift for Difference project, because our good friend Dan John has a catchphrase: "Make a difference." And for me, that difference was helping to save the life of a family member. So my sister had been in dialysis since 2018, and her kidney in the last year had been functioning barely above 1%. So yeah, in other words, it was just there as an ornament, pretty much. So I started that project saying it was my way of motivating myself, saying, okay, if you're gonna lift, train, do some physical activities, do it so you can help somebody. And we always say the strength has a greater purpose. And throughout this process in the last year or two, it has really reinforced why strength has a greater purpose and why we do what we do, whether it's in your everyday life or whether you're doing your strength training, it's to help make a difference in other people's lives. And in my case, that my sister's condition was that motivation that kept me going, even on days when, as you know, Tim, you've known me enough, long enough to know that I do love my beer and my bourbon. So, and I still have to get you to try the soju here in Korea someday. But anyways, yeah, you could be hungover. You could be very tired from being a father or from work, but it was that small spark that just kept me going and wouldn't let me quit, which is why, if you notice on my Instagram page, right before I got on that plane, I said, I wrote the Deadlift for Difference project has been finished. And then the next thing you knew, I was getting on a plane to Germany. And 2 weeks later, I was in the operating room, and my kidney, despite the fact that it had been filtrating a lot of stuff from the alcohol I loved, they were functioning very well. And I heard later on that the doctor was surprised because it hadn't been in quote unquote fully installed yet on my sister, and yet it's already started functioning very quickly. And and honestly, if you take the blood readings right now, I think my sister's like creatinine levels are lower than mine. And in practice, they let the donor keep the better kidney, and they give the, I guess, how would you express it, the relatively less healthy one to the recipient. But I think she got the longer end of the stick this time. I don't know how that happened in the few months, but hey, you do what you got to do. And it was a very nerve-wracking experience, but seeing her recover, it just, it really made it worth all that uh, difficulty and challenges I went through in the last 2 months.
Wow. So, man, so you went to Germany to basically to save your sister's life.
Yes, pretty much.
How long did it take you to make that decision, and what was that thought process like?
Honestly, when I heard it, I will. It was something which I initially did not really think through. As I said, hey, I got a good kid. I got two good functioning kidneys. You can all, if you want one, just ask. Eventually, my other family members, my parents, my wife, talked a little, quote unquote, a little sense to me, saying, "You do realize you have other commitments too, right?" And and my sister also didn't want, if she could find a donor somewhere else. That's what her preference was, because I have two little kids, and just in case it goes wrong, she didn't want to be facing the consequences that could come with that. But it took me several years, because I kept constantly told her that if you can't get it get a donor in the near future, just keep it in mind that you always have me to turn to. And I think it was about 2 years ago when she finally asked me if I was available for it. And she said, you do know that you will be going through a big lifestyle change. And if I was willing to live with that, and I said, I am, but there was a lot of admin related and policy related challenges over in Germany. We got through it. Uh, and at the same time, of course, it took uh, quite a while to get my wife Yumi on board too, to make sure and to have her full support. And I can't thank her enough for having given me full support, because I have a 6 and an 8-year-old at home, and it was summer break.
Mm.
Imagine, just imagine, throughout whole summer break, Daddy was gone. And so, yeah, I can't thank her enough for having given me her full support. So everyone rallied around the two of us, but I remember all the dialysis my sister was going through. About a little over a year ago, she went into some severe depression. And that's when I realized that I really had to get over there and make something happen, and make a difference. Because if I couldn't make a difference, yeah, it was going to be something was going to happen, which we would probably all regret for the rest of our lives. That was the vibe I got at the time. And back then, I really advocated strongly, saying, you have a donor, so let's see if this donor is fit to donate. And it served as a motivation to really train hard.
Wow. So I've read somewhere that there's no greater love than for one to lay down his life for his friends. And like you literally walked out like the greatest expression of love, um, knowing that it was going to be risky, knowing that there are other consequences that could happen with your kids, with your wife, with your family. But you saw your sister and your love for her, like just it took you through any obstacle and barrier. Man, that's just beautiful, Joey.
Thank you, Tim. I really appreciate what you say about it. People have been mentioning something along those lines to me for the last 2 weeks, but honestly, it's just you do what you got to do. That's what I have viewed it as. But sometimes, even if you do what you have to do, it involves a lot of prep. And I tried hard to keep, honestly, I was snatching a kettlebell and swimming in her pool to the morning that we went to the hospital.
Wow.
Just to make sure.
And I hear you say you do what you got to do, but that's what love does, right? Like love is fearless. It it pushes aside all doubt, and it just moves forward. And I don't know, Joey. When I realized what you did, I was like, oh my gosh, you're walking out love. I mean, you're a hero, dude. Like that is just beautiful.
Thank you, Tim. And actually, I reached out to Dan and John about this, because I'll be honest with you. In the last few weeks leading up to my flight, I was scared. I was so scared. And I brought it up with them. He said, are you doing the right thing? And I said, I think I am. Something along those lines. And he said, if you're doing the right thing out of love, what do you have to be scared of? There's a greater plan, and you're a part of it, and just be fearless, face it, and you will be okay. I have no doubts that you will come out fine. And it really helped calm my nerves, because it was something that I was going through by myself. I really didn't want to express it to my family members, because then I did not want my family members to start getting second thoughts on putting me at risk. But in my mind, I was just, you know how when you overthink something, all these horrible scenarios start playing out in your head.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that was the final few weeks leading up to my flight to Germany, which is why, like, I posted when I my flight was taking off here from Korea. It's posted I have passed the point of no return, and I'll be honest with you, I was highly tempted to just not go through immigration that morning.
Mm. But you did.
Yes, and I what I found surprising was that sometimes donors freak out right before they're going under anesthesia, and they just say, "I don't want to do it." Or that it happens more often than you think. So I'm just happy that I did it, and just seeing her recover. Oh my goodness, Tim, the wonderful human body, as you always say, how we were built to be super strong and resilient. Oh my gosh, you could really see it.
That's
How
wonderful.
you, you know how a person's health, it's like a domino. If as long as they're all the ducks are in order, you're fine. But all it takes is just one to tip over, and then everything else starts tipping over. And honestly, in the last 5 years, my sister, her eyesight has been going bad, and then later on, like she had a serious skin irritation problem, and then she also developed asthma. And I mean, you're living in a nice rural place in Germany. How can you get asthma, which she had never had in her whole life? So the doctors assumed that it was just that those dominoes all fallen. But just about with not even a week later, I see her in the hospital, and her skin tone is already almost back to normal. And she's like, "Oh my!" And she always had these things with her because she was itching all over. She had back scratchers like everywhere in her house because she was always itching. And then I asked how she felt, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, come to think of it, I have not scratched anywhere in a while." And then a few days later, we realized that all that wheezing and coughing that she'd been doing every 5 minutes was gone. And it's just really amazing to witness how we are so resiliently built, and how just putting one thing back in order just naturally brings it all back. It's just like how you preach our resets. It will naturally bring things back in order as we go through our developmental patterns. And it really resonated with me very strongly when, as even as I was finally starting to do a little or just a bit of your resets after I was recovering, how it just you when you're some sort of patient, you can really feel yourself getting tied back together, and you can really see yourself go on that road to recovery.
Mm. So, man, it's great to hear that the dominoes are getting stacked back in place and your sister's doing really well. That's wonderful.
Uh,
And and it's
those were
wonderful. It's wonderful to hear that you are healing up as well.
yes. So officially, I lifted for the first time today.
Right on.
Yes, but of course, it was just a few snatches with a 16-kilogram kettlebell. Just started out using those machines, which we're not a big fan of course, just to make sure that I didn't feel anything. And then I said, "Oh, not bad." And I just tried a few kettlebell exercises and said, "Okay, I'll call it a day," because I could really feel my heart rate skyrocket. I was like, "Yeah, need to work on it."
Well, and you got the rest of your life to build all that back up, right? But so there's no need to rush. Um, But I love how you're also listening to and honoring your body in the recovery process too. That's really awesome.
Hey, this is the way. You always said it feels good to feel good.
Right on. Joey, you
Yes.
are you are a hero, man. Thank you so much for what you did for your sister, for sharing your story. Such an inspiration.
Thank you. I'm honored to hear words like that coming from you of all people, Tim. I really am. Because honestly, you have always been an inspiration to me. Yes. And I have been always trying to live by how what you preach. Honestly, yes, practicing what you preach is definitely not an easy thing to do. But even then, I think I heard it when he was talking with you or Pat, and he said if you can't if you're somehow along the line, if you're doing physical training, and it's not somehow used to help make the lives of the people around you better, you have no business picking up any heavy weights. He said something like that, and I fully agree with that. And at least for now, I can live in peace saying I made a difference, and all the original strength, all the lifting has helped for now.
That is awesome. You have made a difference, and I'm sure you're going to continue making a difference. Joey, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much for inviting me, Tim. And for the gentle listeners out there, if you happen to be in Korea in the next 2 months, we have an original strength workshop here. So please, me and my good friend Jim Pill we will have Pierce Kwan joining us to run the workshop here in the beautiful port city of Busan. So please come and join.
Thanks for listening, everyone. Now get outside and play.